Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Late summer 2020. The mountains of Isdalen Valley, Norway, a place locals call Death Valley. Steep cliffs, cold air, and a history that breathes mystery. A hiker spots a yellow tent pitched alone on a ridge above the lake. No movement, no sound. Inside lies a man whom no one in the world seems to know. He had no phone, no wallet, no identification of any kind. Only a few coins, some food, a pair of hiking boots, and a small notebook filled with numbers that meant nothing to anyone. His passport had been torn apart. The labels from his clothes were carefully removed. Even his gear looked deliberately untraceable. Brand names scratched out, serial numbers gone. The man was estimated to be in his 40s. Dark hair, lean, weathered hands that spoke of experience, someone used to living outdoors. But there was no vehicle nearby, no records of a missing person matching his description anywhere in Europe. For months, police searched databases, fingerprints, DNA archives. Nothing. He was a ghost in human form. Locals began calling him the hiker in the yellow tent. The name stuck, echoing another infamous Norwegian mystery, the Isdal woman, found decades earlier in the same region, equally unidentifiable. Two strangers, two tents. Two stories swallowed by the same mountains. Investigators pieced together fragments. A bus driver remembered a quiet passenger heading toward the fjords days earlier. A shopkeeper recalled a man who paid in cash for camping gear, refusing to give his name. The trail led nowhere, just fading footprints in melting snow. An autopsy revealed no signs of struggle. No drugs, no trauma. Only exposure and exhaustion, yet the deliberate erasure of his identity made the case impossible to ignore. Why hide who you are if you plan to die alone? Authorities buried him under a pine tree overlooking the valley. No family attended. No name on the stone, just the date, 2020, and a single word unknown. Today, hikers sometimes find small yellow ribbons tied to branches near the ridge. No one admits to leaving them. Some say they mark where he pitched his tent. Others think they're reminders that even in this connected world, it's still possible to vanish completely. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Labor Day weekend, 1974, the woods of Siskiyou Mountains, southern Oregon. A family of four, Richard and Belinda Cowden, their 5-year-old son David, and 5-month-old Melissa, set up camp by Carberry Creek. The air was warm, the river clear, the perfect place to end summer. By Monday, their camp would be silent. Neighbors remembered seeing them on Sunday morning, Richard and David heading to a store in town for milk. They smiled, bought 2 cartons, and drove back up the winding road. That was the last confirmed sighting of the Cowden family alive. When they failed to visit Belinda's mother for lunch that afternoon, relatives grew worried and drove to the site. The car was there, the tent was pitched. Clothes hung neatly on a line. A half-finished breakfast waited on the picnic table. But there was no sign of the family. No struggle, no tracks, just silence. Police searched the surrounding forest. Days turned into weeks, and the story spread across Oregon like a shadow. Some believed they had been abducted while swimming in the creek. Others feared they'd met a predator, human or otherwise, that roamed those woods. The forest kept it secret for 7 months. Then spring came, and a miner walking through a nearby canyon made a discovery he would never forget. In a small cave, police found the bodies of Belinda and the children. Richard's remains were located downstream, partially covered with rocks. The family had been murdered. No wallets, no weapons, no reason. Investigators focused on a local ex-convict named Dwayne Little, paroled months before the killings and spotted near Carberry Creek that weekend. He had a history of violence, but there was no proof, only rumor and fear. He was later imprisoned again on unrelated charges and has never confessed. The site remains quiet now, the trees grown taller around where the tents once stood. Locals say campers still hear a baby crying near Carberry Creek at night, followed by footsteps that stop too soon. If you ever camp there, listen carefully. The woods remember, they just don't forgive. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. June 14th, 1969. The Great Smoky Mountains. A quiet afternoon, heavy with summer air and the scent of pine. 6-year-old Dennis Martin ran through the meadow at Spence Field, laughing with his cousins. It was Father's Day weekend, a family tradition camping high above Kate's Cove. No one imagined it would end in one of the strangest disappearances in U.S. park history. The boys decided to play a prank, hide behind bushes, and jump out to scare the adults. Dennis started off to the left, red shirt flashing through the trees. The others circled right, seconds passed. Then minutes, when the cousins leapt from hiding, Dennis was gone. His father called out no answer. He ran half a mile in every direction, shouting his son's name until his voice broke. By evening, rangers, scouts, and volunteers flooded the park, hundreds of searchers moving through rain-soaked forest, helicopters above, bloodhounds below. But the Smokies swallowed everything. The search grew to more than 1,000 people, one of the largest in national park history. They scoured ridgelines, caves, streams. They found footprints, small, bare footprints, leading down a slope, then vanishing into mud. They found nothing else. Days turned into weeks. Rain hammered the searchers, hypothermia, bears, wild boar. The wilderness offered 100 ways to disappear. But there was no clothing, no remains, no trace. Dennis had simply ceased to exist within miles of his family. Rumors followed. Some said he'd fallen into a sinkhole or been swept away by a stream. Others whispered about something darker, that a stranger had been seen nearby, a man hiding in the woods. That part was never proven. But locals still talk about it, the way they talk about ghosts, quietly, after dark. 50 years later, the case is still open. The park remains beautiful, green, endless, and haunted by one unanswered question. How can a child vanish in a field surrounded by hundreds of people and leave no trace at all? If you walk Spencefield today, you'll find a plaque dedicated to Dennis. The forest has grown thicker, the trails quieter, and sometimes when the wind moves just right, it sounds like a child laughing far off in the trees. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Bouquet, Panama. A mountain town wrapped in mist, where the jungle hums even at night. On April 1st, 2014, two friends from the Netherlands, Chris Kremers, 21, and Lizanne Froon, 22, set out for a short hike on the Pianista Trail. They were young, adventurous, confident, and by sunset, they had vanished. Their host family said the girls had breakfast, packed light, just one backpack, some water, and their phones. They took photos on the trail, bright smiles, blue sky, green canopy above. But the final picture was different. The light was dimmer, the smiles gone. Somewhere between those snapshots, they crossed an invisible line, from safety into the unknown. When they didn't show up for dinner, locals began to worry. By morning, search teams were combing the jungle. Helicopters flew. Dogs tracked scents that ended at a narrow river crossing. Days passed, no sound. No footprints, only rain endless. Heavy rain washing the trail clean. 10 weeks later, a local woman found a blue backpack on the bank of a river miles from where they'd started. Inside were both girls' phones, 2 brass, a camera, and Lizanne's passport. The photos told a story no one could explain. The first 90 images showed the hike normal, happy. Then, 8 days later, the final 90 shots appeared. Taken at night in pitch darkness. The flash lighting up jungle leaves, rocks, a lock of hair, what looked like a blood-stained tissue. Some believed they were trying to use the flash as a flare. Others thought they were signaling someone or something out there with them. Phone records showed a pattern of calls to 112 and 911, dozens of them. None connected. Then days later, one phone stayed on. The other died. A week later, the last attempt to unlock it was made with the wrong pin 3 times. Months after the backpack, investigators found bones scattered along the riverbank. DNA confirmed it was Chris and Lizanne. No cause of death was ever proven. Officials said it was an accident, that the girls fell into a ravine. But locals still whisper about the strange sequence of photos, the missing belongings, the unanswered calls. At night, the Pianista Trail is silent except for the rain. Tourists still walk it, some leaving flowers near the overlook. And sometimes when lightning flashes through the jungle, it catches something reflective, like a camera lens still waiting for its last picture to make sense. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. April 5th, 2017. A storm rolls in over the Olympic Mountains, cold, heavy, and mean. 22-year-old Jacob Gray pedals his bike through the rain, pulling a small trailer packed with camping gear. He's young, restless, searching for something he can't name. The forest swallows him whole. Rangers found the bicycle the next morning, propped neatly against a mossy guardrail beside the Soul Duck River. The trailer was still hitched. Sleeping bag, stove, bow, and arrows, all there, but Jacob was gone. At first, searchers thought he'd wandered into the woods to camp. Maybe slipped on the rocks. The area was thick with fog, soaked in rain, full of hidden ravines. But days passed, no tent. No fire pit, no footprints. Just the bike, waiting like a question no one could answer. Jacob's father, Randy, refused to stop looking. He quit his job, bought a van, and spent months combing the park. He found notes left by hikers, tips from psychics, even a rumor that Jacob had joined a wandering spiritual group. But every path led nowhere. Only the silence of the forest, endless and uncaring. Search teams returned again and again. The dogs caught a trace near the river, then lost it in the current. Some said he might have fallen in. Others whispered that he'd walked away on purpose, chasing solitude until it took him. 15 months later, in August 2018, a team of Olympic National Park employees discovered bones deep in the Hoh rainforest. DNA confirmed what Randy already knew: it was Jacob. They never found a cause of death, no sign of violence. No clear story, just a young man who vanished into the wild and never came back. His father scattered Jacob's ashes near the river where the bicycle had stood, still upright after all that time. Randy later said he went where the world is quiet. Maybe he found what he was looking for. If you drive Highway 101 and glance toward the trees, you might see it, a lonely guardrail streaked with rust, and sometimes a single bicycle leaning there again. No one knows who leaves it. Maybe a ghost. Maybe a father who never stopped hoping. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Yosemite National Park, summer 1981. The granite cliffs glow orange in the evening light. Waterfalls roar in the distance, and tourists drift through the valley like ghosts with cameras. 14-year-old Stacy Ann Aris was one of them, young, curious, and full of life. She came to see the wilderness. Instead, she became part of its legend. The group had ridden horseback up to the Sunrise High Sierra Camp, a tiny outpost of tents perched above the valley, miles from the nearest road. That afternoon, Stacy decided to take a short walk to a nearby ridge to snap a picture of the lake below. It was barely 100 yards away. Her father stayed behind to rest. The guide waved her off with a smile. She never came back. Minutes passed. Then an hour. When they went looking, there was nothing. No sound, no footprints, no trail of broken branches. Just still air and empty space. By nightfall, a full-scale search was underway. Helicopters circled. Dogs combed the meadows. More than 100 people spent days scouring the area. Rangers, volunteers, even military assistants. All they found was her camera lens cap, resting in the dust. No clothing, no remains. No trace of where she went. Rangers were baffled. The ridge she walked toward had no cliffs steep enough to hide a fall. The lakes were shallow. Predators were rare. It was as if the mountain had simply opened its mouth and swallowed her. Over the years, theories came and went. Some said she wandered off the trail, disoriented by altitude. Others whispered about abduction, campers, hunters, or something less human in the Yosemite wilds. The park's records of her disappearance were sealed for decades, fueling rumor after rumor. Even now, requests for the full report are met with silence. Her family never stopped asking. Her mother once said, "I just want to know where she is." That's all, but Yosemite doesn't give up its secrets easily. The park holds too many echoes, voices that belong to no one. If you stand near the Sunrise Camp at dusk, where the wind moves through the pines, some hikers say they hear a girl calling for her father. Soft, faint, always just out of reach. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Blood Mountain, Georgia, the highest peak on the Appalachian Trail. A place where fog moves like ghosts between trees, where voices fade faster than footsteps. On January 1st, 2008, 24-year-old Meredith Hope Emerson set out for what should have been a simple day hike. She never came home. Meredith was bright, strong, careful, a black belt in Aikido, and an experienced hiker. She loved the wilderness. That morning, she left her apartment in Beaufort with her dog, Ella, and drove north toward Vogel State Park. By noon, the sun had turned pale, the mountain quiet. Somewhere on that trail, she met a man named Gary Michael Hilton. Hilton was older, scruffy, walking the same trail with his dog. Friendly, too friendly. Witnesses saw them talking near the summit. By evening, Meredith's car sat abandoned in the parking lot, her phone and wallet still inside. Her dog was missing too. The search began before sunrise, rangers, helicopters, volunteers combing the ridges. Then, 3 days later, Ella wandered into a grocery store parking lot miles away. Thin, shaking, still wearing her leash, someone had let her go. Investigators traced Hilton through surveillance footage, a worn van, a restless man cleaning the inside with bleach. When police caught him, he was calm, almost helpful. He led them deep into Dawson Forest, to a clearing where the trees bowed under silence. There, they found Meredith. Hilton confessed. He had approached her on the trail, pretended to need help, then forced her off the path. She fought hard, using her martial arts training, escaping more than once. But the wilderness gives no cover when you're alone. Hilton pleaded guilty in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. He's now serving life in prison. Authorities later linked him to at least 3 other murders across state lines. Each victim, a hiker, camper, or drifter, vanished into the same kind of quiet. Today, hikers still leave flowers at Blood Mountain. They say when the fog rolls down from the ridge, you can hear a dog's faint bark echoing through the trees. And maybe, somewhere in that sound, the spirit of Meredith Emerson still fights her way home. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. The forest swallowed the trail that morning. It wasn't loud, no screams, no rush. Just the steady rhythm of boots on soft earth, the hum of wind through needles, and the distant crash of water over stone. I called myself Inchworm, small steps, big dream. At 66 years old, I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, chasing freedom, sunlight, the end of America's long spine. I never imagined I'd run out of trail instead. It was July 22nd, 2013, when I stepped away from the shelter at Poplar Ridge Lane 2 to just go and step on the side trail, only a few minutes. But minutes turned into hours. The forest changed, the compass spun. My boots followed shadows. In my hand was a phone, a lifeline. But the signal was ghost then. Messages sent, not delivered. A plea, in some trouble. Got off trail to go to BR. Now lost. Another, lost since yesterday. Off trail 3 or 4 miles. Call police, please. I built a tent. Tied a space blanket overhead. Tried fires. Looked for the trail. I wrote in my journal, when you find my body, please call my husband George. And my daughter Carrie. Weeks blurred. The trees didn't care. The search planes flew over. I heard them. But I was invisible. Dogs passed nearby. My body finally found in October 2015. 2 years later, less than a mile from the trail I'd left. The map, the compass, the plan, none held. Silence rose instead. Something did me in. Exposure, disorientation. Maybe something darker, I don't know. The woods don't speak, they only listen. If you ever hike that trail, carry more than hope. Carry directions, carry a signal. Carry someone who checks in. Because the wild isn't a friend when you're alone. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow.